Hello, BookTube. Today for Tag Tuesday, I will be doing the Hitchhiker's book tag. This tag was created by Gareth of Book Songs and Other Magic in celebration of the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy by Douglas Adams, which I've never read. I was kindly tagged by Pete of Bookless Pete, and I will leave links to both channels in the show notes down below. Prompt number 1. Demolishing your house. What book would you look for first to save from the demolition? Magi the Labyrinth of Magic by Shinobu Otaka. Magi the Labyrinth of Magic is a manga series about a young magi named Aladdin who has come to a world inspired by the 1001 Nights to create friendships and have adventures. While Magi the Labyrinth of Magic is not one of my top 10 manga series, it was one of the ones that I started off with when I decided that I wanted to start collecting manga actively a few years ago, and was one of the most difficult series to fully complete. Many of its volumes are not in print, and the existing volumes at used bookstores have been at times ridiculously priced. It wasn't until early last year that I fully completed the series and reread it and read the whole series for the first time. But that would be the first books that I would try to rescue, because recollecting the series would probably be as time consuming and frustrating. And then I would proceed to rescue as much of the rest of my manga collection as I could, starting with my favorite series and then proceeding as much as I could get, depending upon how much space I had and whatever the rescue box or tub or whatever it would be. I tried to get as much in there as I could. Prompt number 2. Vogon poetry. Quote a poet, a line of poetry, or a lyric that you love. For this prompt, I'm going to actually read a poem. This past Sunday, I read 2 slim volumes of poetry by Catherine W. Carter, and while I regret not having read another 3 volumes of One Piece or getting started on the work of Mavis Gallant, I did rather enjoy rereading Larvae of the Nearest Stars by Catherine W. Carter, which is my favorite collection of hers. And I will read my favorite poem by her, which is in this collection. After the colony collapse, Cullowhee, North Carolina. The tiered, square-cornered towers are bone-cold, barren of the bustle and thrum of its people. Our humming palace stands hollow and still. Where are the women gathered together to comb the children, balancing burnished orange pollen pressed into panniers, fanning nectar of frost aster and blackberry bloom into strong sweets for winter warmth? Far-flown exiles and refugees on the endless roads of the sky, to sink at last, lost and confused. How quickly they fled the floors of waxen wood. How quiet now the queen kneels, that peace giver who breathed grace and comfort up through the colony's sacked stories. Soon she'll be shut in a broad black earth chest, and though in her glory she gave life and life and life, slave to the hive, raised up the gleaming ranks and soft cells of ivory larvae, no heir in her amber chamber waits to wake and mate. Not one daughter, we 6 who stayed with her, creep or crawl our few aimless inches. Dazed with misfortune, too dismayed even to strike at the shocked keeper. And we were once brave battle maids in August's weapon weather, fearless foragers, tender foster mothers. Who will remember now the rotating cluster, its seats at the feast? or the dance in the dim entry summoning sisters to glean the sourwood gold of summer, bear it bright to six-sided cups and warm combs that throbbed with song. Griefs grow countless as white clover as we whisper the name-sense of nurslings and sisters. If this world's foundation is not all waste, how shall we know? Where shall the last of legions, left solitary, find grace for herself, or her queen? Keeper, do even you know what brought our bright rooms to ruin, and slips us into the sleep of the sting? What pillaged the pillared honey halls, and made mad our strong sisters, leaving only the drumming of the north wind's needles on the steel ceiling that chilled silent halls haunted by hive beetles? It is true, after all, what the old told us, that at last all happiness flows cold, all this world's stores of sweetness are fleeting and brief. So, moving on to prompt number 3, 42. The answer to life, the universe, and everything. What is the point? What is the meaning of life? Well, there's actually two answers to this prompt. The first prompt is to endure and propagate. But since this question is usually philosophical, well, then there is no meaning to life because philosophy is poop. Yeah. Prompt number 4. It's radio beginning. What is your favorite memory in your experience as a listener to the radio? I don't really have any fond memories of the radio. The radio never really played a big role in my life. So moving on to prompt number 5, the towel. What book or books would you pack for a holiday? This prompt is really difficult because there is no, these are the books that I always take on holiday. Of course, I could also ask you, what exactly is a holiday? I've never had one. But if I were to go on a holiday, I think this is how I would do things. If I were going on an urban holiday, I would probably take 1 or 2 books, probably whatever I'm reading, and then whatever books I picked up during the holiday because I would go shopping. I would definitely try to do a bookstore crawl at both retail and used bookstores. And then whatever I picked up, I would probably start to read those before I headed back home. If I were going to a more isolated holiday, I probably would take a few more books. Again, probably whatever I'm currently reading and whatever I think would be next on my docket. And hopefully it works out. I guess, kind of sort of an example. A few weeks ago, my mom went into the hospital for a few days, and I took 2 book bags. One I made while waiting for the ambulance to come and pick her up, and those books did not work out. And I talked about that on, I think, two weekly reads ago. And then I had a more successful second bag that I put together after I came back for the night and then went back to stay with her until she was released. Those books worked. So it would be a crapshoot on whether or not the books worked or not. So moving on to prompt number 6. The infinite improbability drive. Name a fast read. For me, it would be volumes of manga. I can usually read them in between 30 minutes to an hour. And some volumes of poetry, which also take me about an hour to read on average. Prompt number 7, don't panic. Name a book with great levels of tension or suspense. For this, I'm going to go with a work of nonfiction, The Sleepwalkers by Christopher Clark. This is a history of the years leading up to World War I and the foibles and jealousies and revanchism and ambitions of the leaders of France, Austria, Serbia, Russia, Germany, and the United Kingdom, and any number of countries that I'm forgetting, all led to that immense tragedy. And seeing these foibles and ambitions clash and fray, and all of the choices that were made that ultimately led up to the war, even though as they were being made, they could not have known what was coming. But of course, the reader would know, people in the future would know, and that comes off very much as a tragedy. And finally, the ninth prompt, tag people. If you would like to do this tag, consider yourselves tagged. Anyway, BookTube, I will be back tomorrow with hopefully a new video. So until then, thank you, have a great afternoon, and stay safe.